We start with news out of Israel now, with the country's inflation rate jumping to a new 14-year high of 5.2% year over year in July. Israel's annual consumer price index, otherwise known as the CPI, rose to a higher than expected rate of 5.2% in July. That's the most since October 2008. That's a 14-year high for Israelis, and apparently more aggressive interest rate hikes are looming, especially after a 4.4% rate in June. This is all no doubt keeping the soaring cost of living center stage ahead of elections in Israel in November. With me now for more insight, economic expert Alex Coleman from Tel Aviv University joins me in the studio. Alex, let's start with this latest Reuters poll. So the country's inflation rate is now jumping, as we mentioned, to a high of 5.2% since July. Israelis haven't seen a spike like this for 14 years. So what's this all saying? What can we pin this spike down to? We're going to pull up some graphs with some numbers, so break the numbers down for us.
Well, first of all, Israelis cannot believe these numbers, particularly in real estate, because events, the COVID and China and the supply chain devastation caused things like iron or the inputs that go into construction to spike into the sun. In addition to that, many Israelis, particularly young couples, sat on the fence waiting for prices to go down, and they realized that politicians are not going to do that. So they jumped down, they joined the market, and they are paying through the nose. So these two phenomena cause prices to really go through the roof. Now, the good news are that because of inflation, prices have gone so much higher, and most of the mortgages in Israel are dynamic, which means that if inflation goes up, you pay your monthly payment goes up with it. So quite a few potential buyers, particularly investors. We usually break it into young couples who actually need a house and investors who buy a number of houses because it's profitable. So investors looked at this hike in interest rate and said, thank you very much, we can not do it. And actually, mortgages have declined recently. So that's good. But
with all of this, can we actually pinpoint where the spike started? Was it with your daily grocery shopping, fruit and veggies? Was it with housing prices? Was it a jump in transport? Where did we all see it hitting Israelis' pockets the hardest?
Biggest things are housing and energy. And of course, energy goes into everything, because energy goes into the manufacturing of products, etc., importing things into Israel. It was slightly offset by the fact that the shekel is very strong. So the shekel going up, it offset part of it. But these are the two major things: energy, and that's Russia with the Ukraine and the repercussions, and the idea of all the supply chain being distorted in the construction and other products.
And on Monday, the Bank of Israel is apparently meeting as well. It's expected that they will be raising the benchmark interest rate, which is a move that's already happened last year. So what can you tell us about this?
Well, Israel is basically following what the United States are doing. So if the U.S. raises interest rates, Israel follows suit. I mean, we might increase interest rates slightly less than the U.S., which is good for our exports, because if your interest rates are lower than in the U.S., you're less attractive to investors, and so the shekel is weaker, so you can export at better prices. But basically, whatever the U.S. is doing, we are doing. The U.S. is very aggressive because their inflation is much stronger than ours. They printed money as if there's no tomorrow. And so they're raising interest rates very aggressively, and we follow suit.
But we can imagine there'll be a lot of angry Israelis after all of these changes, especially with the jobless rate also rising.
Yes.
What's this all saying come November with the elections?
Well, angry Israelis, they bark, they do not bite. We've seen a lot of people being frustrated about these things, particularly young couples. We've not seen any action. Another problem is that these couples do not believe in politicians. They say politicians would promise us the sky today, and once election day is passed, they would forget about it. But still, this is the mechanism that we know. You need to find politicians who would commit themselves to reducing cost of living, real estate, and you need to bring a number of voters for that and hope that they would not cheat on you.